I don't know about you, but that normal method for making a magic ring where you cross it over your fingers never works for me. So in this tutorial, I'm going to show you 3 alternatives. I think all of these are better than a normal magic ring. So the first one that I'm going to show you is probably the easiest. So you need to hold your yarn and hook as normal. And then you put your hook to one side of the working yarn and you pull out. And then you rotate your hook 360 degrees, making this twist. This is familiar if you've seen any of my tutorials before. This is what I do instead of a slip knot. So now I'm going to pinch it and I'm going to make my starting chain with 1 extra chain. So the round that I'm going to use for this example is a round of 12 double crochet if you use US terms, but it doesn't really matter what round this is. This could be the centre of a granny square or an amigurumi. You can apply this method to any crochet in the round. So what we're going to do is this first chain here, we're going to turn it into a magic ring. And it's really simple to do when you use that twist instead of a knot. So you see this strand of yarn here, I'm going to pull it and we've created a magic ring. And I find this method a lot easier to teach to beginners than a magic ring because I find magic rings quite fiddly. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to crochet my example first round, which is going to be a round of 12 double crochet. And then I'm going to come back and show you the next method and we're going to compare what each of them looks like. I'm at the end of round 1 and to tighten our magic ring, we just pull on that yarn tail to close up the centre of that circle there, and then I'm going to finish off this round and cut my yarn so we can compare it to the next method. So there's our first example finished. I'll pop it up in this corner so we know that this was method 1. So for method 2, we're going to do something called a chain ring. So I'm going to start exactly like I did before, but you can use a normal slip knot for this, but I'm going to use my normal method where I pull out and rotate 360 degrees. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to chain 4. So 1, 2, 3, 4. So we can see we've got 1, 2, 3, 4 chains there. So now I'm going to make a slip stitch in that first chain to make a loop, a ring of these chains that we've just done there like that. So I'll show you what that looks like. So we're going to slip stitch into that first chain. It doesn't really matter what strand of yarn you go under. I'm going to do a slip stitch. And this now just looks like a mess of yarn, but if we pull it a bit, you can see that it opens up with a hole in the middle that we can crochet into. So now I'm going to do exactly the same round that I did for method 1 and we're going to compare them at the end. So I'm going to do my round of 12 double crochet, and what I like to do when I use this method is I lay my yarn tail alongside my chain, and when I'm making my stitches I actually crochet around it. So I do my stitches around that yarn tail as well, and then this means at the end of this round I can just pull on that yarn tail to close up that hole in the centre. So here I am at the end of the round and I'm going to pull on that yarn tail to close up the centre of that circle again, and then I'm going to finish off this round and then I'll show you method 3. So for method 3, this is actually a magic ring, but you might not have seen this method before. I call this a double magic ring. So to do this, I'm going to wrap my yarn around my first finger 3 times, just like this. And then I'm going to put my hook under those first 2 loops, 1, 2. Grab that 3rd loop with my hook and pull it under those 2 loops. And then I'm going to gently take that magic ring off of my finger. So what you can see here is we have essentially got a magic ring, but rather than just 1 strand making it up, we've actually got 2. And this means that this magic ring is a lot more secure. So it's great for heavy use items like bags and blankets. You will still have to weave this tail in securely though. I'm now going to make my first round exactly the same as the previous 2 methods, so 3 double crochet, and then I will fast forward now until we get to the end of this round, so I show you how to tighten it, because tightening this is a little bit different from the other rings and magic rings in general that we've done before. So I've finished my first round. To tighten this magic ring, we are going to pull on this yarn end, but don't just pull it like you do with other methods. You need to pull this yarn tail gently. And as we pull it, watch those two strands there because one of them is going to tighten. So let me bring this a bit closer to the camera so you can see. So I'm going to pull on that yarn tail, and can you see this one here is starting to tighten, the other one's still quite loose. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to pinch that strand that started to tighten, not the other one, the one that started to tighten, and I'm going to pull it. And you might need to pull it a couple of times. And what that does is that tightens that other strand of this magic ring, because you can't just pull on your yarn tail, you're going to end up with a loop if you do that. So we've got this loop here, but because we pulled on the right yarn strand, you can actually pull that tail and that loop has gone. So that is the double magic ring. I'm just going to fasten this off, and then we're going to have a look at the differences of how these look, so you can decide which method is right for you. So we've got method 1 here. This was the crocheting in the first chain method. This was method 2, so this was the chain ring method. And this was method 3, that was the double magic ring method. So the first thing I think that we need to talk about that you might not be able to see on camera is actually that chain ring has a lot more bulk than the other two. So you can see, if you can see from the side, this is quite flat. If you look at that centre there, and this one is also quite flat. But if we have a look at this, you can just about see it. This is more bulky because we've got those chains inside there and not just strands of yarn. So although this method is the most secure method, and it's the method that I use in my blankets whenever I can, including for granny squares, you do end up with a bit of a bulky centre, but this is so secure, this is not going to come undone, especially if you weave your end in over the top of it as well. And actually it does have the biggest hole left in the centre out of the methods as well, but if I really give this a pull, it does cinch it closed nicely. But again, you might not want to use this method. This method is not great for amigurumi because your single crochet stitches that you use for amigurumi are a lot smaller than the double crochet, so you can see that bulk a lot more. So I wouldn't recommend this for amigurumi. I would recommend actually one of the other two methods. I use these two methods interchangeably. So this was the crocheting in the first chain, and this was the double magic ring. And honestly, you can't see, but I'm touching them and they both feel about the same in terms of bulk at the center. I feel like the double magic ring is slightly neater. I don't know if you can see that, but by doing the crocheting in the first chain, sometimes you do get a bit of a deformed starting chain. You can see it there almost where it started to turn a bit. So you do get a bit of a neater finish with the double magic ring, but really I use these two methods interchangeably. I think method 1 is a little bit easier if you're a beginner. So I hope this tutorial has helped you. If it has, then please subscribe because I have got a lot of other crochet tutorials on this channel that you'll enjoy, including the one that I've put up on your screen now.